Hi, I'm Mel, and this is Miniature Warriors. Welcome back to the channel. Firstly, I'd just like to thank all the subscribers. Your interest in what I'm doing in the hobby is very humbling and greatly appreciated. Anyway, let's push on to today's game. Today's game is a 1864 game, and it was a very entertaining game. Anyway, I'll let the narrator give you the scenario. I hope you enjoy.
It is a year since the Confederate defeats at both Gettysburg and Vicksburg, and 8 months since General Bragg's victory at Chickamauga. The rebel Army of Tennessee, under General Joseph E. Johnston, has been forced to give ground in front of Atlanta, slowly being driven further and further into Georgia's interior. President Davis, now in July 1864, has removed General Johnston from command, replacing him with the more aggressive General Hood. One of Hood's first actions is to launch a series of attacks on the exposed right flank of General Hooker's 20th Corps. General Cooper, of 1st Manassas and Savage's Station fame, has been selected to lead the assault. His division comprises 2 brigades, his own and Brigadier Kim's. Cooper's brigade is on the division's left, with the 3rd Virginia Cavalry working their way up the tenured branch stream. Kim's brigade is on the divisional right. Here we are looking in a southerly direction, over the left flank of Colonel Batchelor's brigade. Batchelor's earthworks run across the top of a low ridge, between Tenured Branch and Peachtree Creek. Clumps of woods dot the crest of the hill, which is bisected by the Collier's Bridge Road which runs north-south. His right flank is protected by some abatis that run down to Tenured Branch. Colonel Batchelor has deployed his brigade of recruits, 3 regiments forward and 1 in reserve. His battery has been broken up into sections and deployed to provide close support to his infantry. A reconnaissance conducted yesterday evening has shown that the ground off to his brigade's front left, or the east and on the far side of Peachtree Creek, will prove difficult going, if any Rebs were to take this approach. The rebel divisional commander, Brigadier Cooper, deployed his brigades, 2 abreast. His own brigade, mainly veterans of Manassas and Savage's Station, were deployed on the rebel left. Brigadier Kim's troops formed the Confederate right. It was just after 2 o'clock, in the afternoon, when the first Southerners broke through the tree line and their presence became known to the Federal pickets. A smattering of rifle fire, and the returning blue-coated skirmishers to the Yankee works, alerted the main Federal brigade to the danger that was approaching from the south. The entrenched artillery sections quickly opened fire, throwing 12-pounder shot amongst the rebel regiments, as the Union infantry stood 2 forming ranks under the hot July sun. Colonel Batchelor, seeing the mass of enemy infantry to his front, quickly sent a dispatch rider to the rear, requesting Brigadier Hislop send reinforcements. As this courier went galloping off, Brigadier Cooper sent the 3rd Virginia Cavalry to his left and into the Tenured Branch, threatening Batchelor's right flank. As this was occurring, the Confederate battle line started up the gentle slope. The blue-coated infantry, even though freshly raised regiments of recruits, held their fire. The silence across the field only punctuated by the repetitious thump of the Yankee artillery. The advance of the rebels was methodical and only paused when the Yankee recruits unleashed their opening fire. Minnie balls belching from the muzzles of rifled muskets smashed into the tightly packed rebel infantry, doing horrible carnage, but Cooper's veterans, leading his assault, pushed on. A little further uphill, the rebel battle line drew to a halt, raised their rifles, and unleashed a devastating return fire. Batchelor's young recruits, failing to take advantage of the defensive works, were cut down. The veterans of Cooper's division were quickly gaining the advantage in the ensuing firefight. On Cooper's left, the 3rd Virginia Cavalry had dismounted, and making use of the Tenured Branch stream, worked their way northward to a position where they could put skirmish fire onto Batchelor's right flank regiment. At the eastern end of the field, Brigadier Kim's brigade also advanced. His cavalry regiments pushing across Peachtree Creek, making the most of the difficult going. This maneuver forcing Colonel Batchelor to commit his reserve regiment to the defense of his left flank. As he ordered this, Batchelor continued to scan the Collier Road to the north for signs of Hislop's reinforcements, but alas, nothing. A well-timed, rebel assault on Bachelor's Works, now swept in. With musket butt and bayonet, the Virginians and North Carolinians drove the Yankees from their entrenchments. The unfortunate blue-coated regiment dissolved with the survivors streaming to the rear. But just as this was happening, Brigadier Hislop's brigade arrived on the field. Batchelor breathed a sigh of relief. The Federal reinforcements had arrived. Hislop quickly attempted to stabilize the situation. His brigade was deployed in regiments abreast, across the ridge, but as they moved forward, the regiments became entangled in the dense thickets of trees at the top of the feature, slowing their advance. With the Yankee entrenchments abandoned, the rebel right envelopment continued. Kim's cavalry, on the far bank of the Peachtree Creek, threatened to turn the entire Federal position, and his infantry brigade drove directly for the extreme left of the Union trenches. Sensing the day was his, Brigadier Cooper ordered his infantry into the abandoned enemy works. A final surge forward saw the rebel flags fluttering over the enemy entrenchments. But the Federals continued in the fight, the regiments either side of the Confederate lodgment doggedly holding their ground. The rebel commander now ordered his guns, the 5th Virginia Battery, to deploy on his left, their fire to support the 3rd Virginia Cavalry skirmish line in the Tanyard Branch stream. In an unexpected move, Batchelor ordered his right flanking regiment to charge the Southern guns, and in a valiant attempt, forward they went. The rebel guns fired point-blank canister that destroyed the brave Federals, and the charge was repulsed. As Hislop's regiments finally became engaged, Brigadier Kim's rebel right envelopment hit home. Batchelor's remaining left flank regiments fought gallantly, defending a small copse of woods on the western bank of Peachtree Creek. Faced with swarming victorious rebel infantry, the loss of their entrenchments, mounting casualties and the late arrival of reinforcements, Batchelor's brigade finally broke, his troops routing to the rear. Cooper's attack had succeeded. The day was his and Atlanta would hold for another day. Brigadier Hislop's brigade had been deployed in depth, and had avoided the opening Confederate assault, and as such had not taken excessive losses. His brigade was reinforced by an additional battery. Brigadier Hislop was not promoted. Colonel Batchelor's regiments had taken heavy casualties, however, the brigade was reinforced by the 54th Massachusetts Regiment. Colonel Batchelor was not promoted. Brigadier Cooper, who had been recalled to the active army after working in the Confederate Secret Service, rumors had it that he had even been seen at Niagara Falls, managed to win a convincing rebel victory. His troops, although roughly handled, had carried the day. His brigade has been reinforced with a battery of guns. Brigadier Cooper was not promoted. Brigadier Kim's troops, on the rebel right, had pinned Batchelor's left flank in position. Both his cavalry and infantry sustained casualties, reducing some of his regiments to less than 50%. General Hood has reinforced Kim's brigade with an additional infantry regiment and a battery of guns. Brigadier Kim was promoted to Major General with effect July 20, 1864.
Confederate victory, Union defeat. A very entertaining game. Young Colonel Batchelor, holding his forward entrenchments, just overwhelmed by Confederate numbers due to a lack of reinforcements coming from his divisional commander, Brigadier Hislop. Anyway, as we enter the twilight of the campaign, I hope you come back and see how we finish. Anyway, hope you enjoyed.
Band of brothers and native to the soil, fighting for our liberty with treasure, blood, and toil. And when our rights are threatened, the cry rolls near and far, hurrah for the bonny blue flag that bears a single star.